What is up, Scrub fam? Whoa. It's been a long time since we made a video, but exciting product release just happened. Draftbox 6. I want to go ahead and go over 5 decks that I've really had a really fun time brewing, playing, just all around, kind of taking you back to your roots of why we all fell in love with Dragon Ball, which, honestly is because of all the different deck building combinations and things you could do with the new cards. And Draftbox 6 is definitely like a great refresh on that because we've had plenty of other draft boxes before where it's like very much so been very powerful cards, generic cards that kind of just went into already existing best strategies and kind of just made them better. Whereas this draft box almost feels like a theme booster in a sense, where you have like these small archetype packages that kind of can fit in a lot of places, which I'm definitely more so a fan of when it comes to these draft box products. So really excited to go over these 5 deck lists with you. Before I get started, give a shout out to my sponsor, Alec Pastrana. BeardCollectibles.com. Best shop owner on the planet. If you haven't already gotten your product for Draftbox 6, if you haven't already ordered your expansion packs, make sure you do so through Alec Pastrana, BeardCollectibles.com. Get those orders in now. So without further ado, let's go into the first deck itself. So the first deck is going to be focusing on Series 10 Frieza, which in Series 11 didn't get too much support outside of Dark Broly, Overwhelming Evil, Unison, but in Draftbox 6, you actually got a big boost with Bio Broly Giant Force. So this is essentially going to end up replacing the 2-drop Unison from the starter deck because it has the same +1. You can discard a card from your hand if you do draw a card. That then has your synergy with Dodoria, where you +1 on Bio Broly, discard Dodoria, play Dodoria, draw a card. So you don't end up losing any value at all. And then of course that just works with your leader, where you can swing Sack of Frieza's army to take a life and then make your opponent discard a card. So hand destruction, right? Best thing about this is that the auto. Choose one card in your hand and discard it. If this card is placed in its own drop area from Unison in an area from your during your opponent's turn, play it from your drop area with one marker on it, and you can't play copies of this card for the turn. So let's say you play this on your turn 1, you +1, you go up to 2 markers, you get your Dodoria into play, whatever, draw a card. Your opponent goes, they're gonna have to swing at it a total of 3 times because the first 2 times to get 2 markers off of it, then a third time if they actually want to kill it for the turn. And then there's another field battle where they do invest those resources and you end up just playing another one. So it kind of just leads to that thing where it's like opponents kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. And that's why I really like this Unison. And then of course it has the -4, which makes it irrelevant throughout the game. Choose 2 cards in your opponent's hand and discard them. Then this card gets plus 16,000 power and dual attack for the turn. So again, lots of pressure on the opponent's hand. And then again, you just have a Unison that just stays relevant throughout the course of the game. And what's cool about this too is when you combine it with your leader ability, where you can choose one Frieza's army card in your battle area and place it in its drop area. You then choose a card from opponent's hand and discard it. Then one of your Unisons gets critical for the turn. So that means your Bio Broly could be a 25k crit dual attack attacker that just made your opponent discard 2 cards, which of course is extremely strong. The next thing, of course, will be Dark Broly being your other Unison. Same premise, all about hand destruction. And then, of course, with your leader skill, making it 20k double strike critical as well to make it a really big threat across the course of the game, especially since you're a hand destruction deck. And then, of course, we're playing 4 Healing Pod. You want to see it. And if you see it early, like you kind of snowball your card advantage like really quickly in this deck. Once you have Healing Pod online, combined with your Bio Broly Giant Force, being able to discard your Dodoria, play your Dodoria, draw 2 cards off your Bio Broly is pretty insane. And then also the fact that you can trigger Healing Pod on the opponent's turn when, like, let's say your Bio Broly dies and you have a Dodoria in your hand, you can discard Dodoria for the effect, play the Dodoria, still draw a card with Healing Pod. So you just have all these ways to gain that advantage, which is pretty wild. Another combination I like is that in Draftbox 6, Tapion, Fate of a Hero. So this is just a great high value card. If your leader card is green or a Phantom Demon, discard this card from your hand, choose one, draw 1 card, and play this card from the drop area at the end of the turn. That's the effect we're really looking for. So that's what you do is you discard this card, draw a card, play it from the drop area into the turn. So you have Healing Pod. It's going to end up being a draw 2 for you, and you're going to get 15k blocker. So high synergy card offers you a ton of utility and flexibility. So I really like Tapion, Fate of Hero, not only this deck, but other green decks as well. And then, of course, the rest of the stuff is fairly generic. We're playing our 4 Zarbon Cosmic Elite. Being able to buy this back, trigger your Healing Pod, have a blocker that taxes the opponent, very strong. Your 4 Roshi Kamehameha Origins. Playing 4 Dormant Potential Unleashed, same thing, has great synergy with Healing Pod as well as Dodoria, because Dodoria only really counts like whenever it's discarded. So you play a Dormant, discard a Doria, triggers your healing pod, you draw a card. So again, high synergy deck, all focused around healing pod, and Bio Broly just made this deck get so much better. I mean, I can't stress how powerful 1-cost unisons are compared to 2 and 3-cost unisons. Take Demigra as like the benchmark of greatness. Anytime you can play something for just 1 energy that just accrues value over the course of multiple turns, that's how you end up winning a lot of games. And DBS is just your amount of actions you can create in a turn, and having a unison in play early that opens up your counterplay, opens up your free negates, and then generates additional actions for you is always just so powerful. So I think this deck gets a huge lift from this unison. So I'm excited to see if it sees a lot more play. Same thing with Tapion, Fate of a Hero. I think that card is wonderfully powerful and is exactly what green decks or these decks kind of need, just that extra advantage engine. Being able to get that draw a card, play a blocker. Again, just high value. Love that card. The next deck that we're going to go over is Topo, playing the Lord Slug pieces. We're not doing the successor stuff. We're really kind of focusing on just being that control deck that Topo kind of relies on. Where your finisher really is just Vegeta Unison of Fury to close it out with the dual attack, double strike, and then tapping one of your opponent's energy. And then you want to kind of set up the situation where you just keep your opponent's resources really pressed with Bergamo, Ferocious Roar when combined with Zamasu, Sacred Disbelief, or Kakade Zone. Kakade Zone, I mean, I've always loved this negate, and I think it's the best negate that yellow has right now. So playing it with a Universe 11 leader, Topo definitely feels a little bit better than Jiren, just because Topo has this thing about if you have yellow unison with a specified cost of 2 in play, when they play a battle card, that player can't play battle cards for the turn. So that's going to end up being more powerful than Jiren's ability. Just due to how much removal is in the game now, you're going to want to have access to something like Topo as a leader skill to be able to slow the game down as opposed to trying to speed it up. So you're going to have your 4 Vegeta Unison of Fury, 3 SS Gogeta Dynamic Unison. But really the cool stuff is when we start looking at the Lord Slug engine. So you have Lord Slug, the Evil Invader, which you can play it on turn 1, draw a card, and then activate for a yellow. Choose 1 Slug's Army card, the energy costs 3 or less in your hand, play it, and then place this card into its drop area. Or you can choose one of your opponent's battle cards and switch to rest mode. That also has synergy with Bergamo as well, so you have multiple ways to trigger it, which is kind of nice. In order to get certain things into play, which we're really trying to get Angela into play as quickly as possible. Bond 2, if your opponent has 4 or more cards in rest mode, this counts energy, unison cards, leader cards, battle cards. When this card attacks, your opponent chooses 2 of their cards in rest mode, and they can't be switched to active mode until the start of your next turn. This also gets around awakening skills, like untapping energy, because it says until the start of your next turn, so nothing can stop them from switching to active mode. So just a very powerful effect. And then, so how you can do it 2 ways, right? So you can use your Lord Slug, pay a yellow, and then play Anguilla off of that. Or you can go Lord Slug 3-drop, use the activate main, which it says if your leader card is yellow or Slug's Army card, discard this card, play up to 1 Slug Army card, energy cost for 1 from your deck. So you can discard this card, play Wings, the morale booster, and then that just then reduces the energy cost of your Anguilla by 1, so you can pay it for 2. So then what you can do is turn 1, you'll discard your Lord Slug, you'll play your Wings. Turn 2, play a Unison, awaken your Topo, untap 2, then you can pay 2 for Anguilla, and then you already have Bond 2 because you have the Wings on board from turn 1. So then you swing, and then, okay, you get to lock 2 of your opponent's things for the entire next turn. It doesn't really matter if your Anguilla lives or dies. You're fine. And then, of course, since you have a Unison play, you can always protect it with Vegeta Prideful Transformation if they try and play something. It's a great counterplay card, probably one of my favorites right now, and the SPR is beautiful, so highly recommend you get your hands on that. But again, great synergy here because it also puts the card in rest mode, so you can set yourself up to do it again with Anguilla. And then, of course, you have Lord Slug, the Super Namekian's actual effect. So when this card is in rest mode, your opponent can't add cards from their deck to their hand using non-leader card skills. It's like similar to the black blue 6-drop. Having this Lord Slug in play in rest mode has barrier. Being able to stop your opponent from drawing additional cards on a turn ends up stacking up over time, especially when you're playing controlling strategy. Then, of course, you have your hammers and Basil Fatal Rampage. 1 energy, drawing a card, and then getting a relevant attacker is so important in Topo because you want to be able to use your energy on both players' turns. Exceptional ability Pan. These 1-drop blockers that draw a card are just so strong. Being able to play this to protect yourself, pass, and then on your opponent's turn, play a Prideful Transformation. Blocker keyword is just so good right now, so being able to accrue multiple to protect your Unisons when you're trying to win the game with them, it's a big deal for you. Of course, Bergamo, Ferocious Roar, we already mentioned. you have so many ways to trigger it between Kakade Zone, you know, your Lord Slug 1-drop, your Zamasu super combo. You're going to be able to get this off with no problem. You know, of course, you just have to worry about counterplay and playing around counterplay, but I'm sure we're all used to that by now. If you're playing against blue, you have to get that Unison's markers down to 1 before you can do anything. And then, of course, our Shikuru playing Sin Shinron, Negative Energy Incarnate. Blocker can't be removed. Big body if you want to start swinging with it on the offensive, so love this card. But anyway, this deck has been really cool to play. I've seen some pretty decent success with it overall, even against like current decks. So pretty interesting to try it out. So probably one of the more fun, versions of yellow you can play right now outside of Sin Shinron. So I really like this deck. The next deck is probably my favorite deck from Draft Box 6. And something you guys should know is like, since I haven't been able to do as much, due to having like full-time job, always working with, Peloton. Shouts to Peloton. If you need a bike, hit me up. For real. I really do this thing where I kind of hone in and pick my favorite decks from each set and only purchase those decks. So for instance, Series 10, I have Sin Shinron. Series 11, I have Dark Broly. Draft Box 6, I'm really only looking to get the pieces for this deck, and then additionally I'm getting Bergamo Unison just because that card's absurd. But the way that this deck functions is you're really taking advantage of your Leader's Awaken side, where once per turn, choose one of your battle cards and one of your opponent's battle cards, KO the chosen cards, just to be able to help you progress your chain quicker. And you can go all the way up to the 8-drop secret rare very fast, very easily. And what I like about Broly as well is that you can always just find a way to self-awaken yourself with your leader ability, getting Unrealized Ambition from the deck, putting it in your hand, and then it's like, oh, okay, wow, like I can awaken with no problem, and then your opponent's going to be forced to swing at you because you're not going to swing at your opponent. You have no reason to on your front side, so it's like your opponent's going to swing at you to accrue advantage, so you can just wait to play your Broly, or you can play it early, whatever you want. Herder and Giant Force is a very important card for the archetype. So the +2, choose one card in your hand, discard it, and more so the +1, choose up to one of your hero or Phantom Demon cards and KO it to keep your chain going. You're going to see that this unison does provide a lot of value, and since it's a 15k unison, it sticks around for a pretty long time. So once one of these comes down and the opponent doesn't deal with it, they're going to have a hard time. So the way that the deck works is you're ideally looking to play Sealed Music Box on turn 1. So look at the top 7, either picking up a Unison card, or if anything, you're getting Minutia. That's what you're going to want if you don't already have it. Turn 2, you'll activate a green to play your Minutia. You'll then, from there, use your Unison skill, KO your Minutia, go up to the 3-drop. Then from there, you either have the ability to use Hoi offensively or defensively to keep progressing the chain, because it just says choose one of your green Herudegarn or Minutia cards and KO it. When this card is used in combo, it gets plus 5,000 combo power for the battle. So it just progresses your chain again. So the only thing to keep in mind is that if you're on turn 2, you can't go from the 4 to the 6. So that's something to keep in mind for yourself, is that if your opponent KOs the 4 when you have less energy, then like you can't actually go get the 6-drop, but you can make your opponent discard a card. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about running this chain, is that little play there, because if they kind of disrupt you early turns, like that's where it kind of gets dicey for you. But once you're on turn 3, which ideally is the turn you're going to go all the way up the chain safely, is you're going to do, of course, Minutia. Minutia gets KO'd. You then play your 3-drop. You can swing with your 3-drop. You then can activate your Herudegarn Unison, KO your 3-drop, play your 4-drop, swing with your 4-drop, then leader skill, KO your 4-drop, get the 6-drop, swing with the 6-drop, critical, KO your 6-drop, right? And then go into the 9. But you don't have to KO the 6-drop that turn. What I like is that there's some pretty sweet plays where, let's say your opponent's like swinging at you and they're trying to deal damage with a battle card. At any point, if you have the 4-drop on board and you have 3 energy, so your opponent swings, leader, whatever, all you have to do is just combo Hoi Hidden Ambition. So you just combo Hoi, you then KO your 4-drop, you get your 6-drop, then you can activate battle, KO this card, then choose 2 of your opponent's battle cards and KO them. So you can choose 2 of your opponent's battle cards, including the ones attacking you, KO them, KO this card, and then just go straight into the 9-drop, which is then just a 30k blocker that whenever it activates blocker, your opponent discards a card. And then, of course, when this dies, you can go into your secret rare as well, back on your turn. So this deck really just goes from 0 to 100 real quick, and this leader just really facilitates that strategy the most out of any other leader that I've seen. And I haven't seen a lot of people talking about this combination, but it makes a lot of sense. Your battlefield doesn't go wide, so you don't really have to worry about that. And then additional finishers outside of the secret rare. We're also playing Vegeta Resolute Agent of Destruction just in case the game goes long. We want to have that access to that ability, just be able to swing and then -5 it, and then make our opponent lose 3 cards. And then we're playing 3 Dormant Potential Unleashed, 3 Frieza Cowers Mac Villain. And then another thing we're doing is we're playing 4 Bionic Blitz, 4 Tapion Fate of a Hero, and then 4 total copies of the Hirudegarn. That way you always have a blue-green card to trigger Revive when your Hirudegarn 9-drop dies. So keep that in mind as well. And then here, again, this has that flexibility of number one, either being a blocker for you, or you can go ahead and search for a sealed music box. So you basically have 8 copies of sealed music box to start the game, which we love consistency, and that is what's going to make the deck run, is having that sealed music box on turn 1, Minutia turn 2, and then you go from there. The 9-drop also has the ability to activate Bane. If your lead card is green or a Phantom Demon card, and you choose one Hirudegarn with an energy cost of 4, 6, or 7 battle area and KO it, play this card from your drop area, and you can't activate main skills on copy this card for the turn. So when this card gets put into your drop area, and say you're in that instance where you don't have the ability to go into the 4 to the 6 because it's early, you can actually sacrifice your 4 and then go straight into the 9. Or that makes it cooler because it's like it can also trigger the rest of your chain. So you're on turn 3, you can activate this green, you can KO your 4-drop, you can play this 9-drop, and then you actually go get the 6-drop. So you can just build a really nice battlefield with just 2 battle cards plus a unison, and that really just stops the opponent from being able to really do anything. So you just have so many ways to go up the chain and activate your chain in this deck that, yes, your deck is all one giant engine, which is similar to like how the Green Broly deck worked. It's all one giant engine, but it's so consistent and so redundant. So again, probably my favorite deck to play right now out of Dropbox 6. Definitely feels fairly competitive, so I'm excited just to sleep it up. And like I said, this is the deck I'm going to purchase from the set. So, if that tells you how excited I am, go ahead and do it for yourself. I imagine the cards are going to be pretty cheap here in the next couple of weeks, so it'd be a good pickup for you if you're looking for something fun to play, whether if it's the kitchen table or any of the local or online events. The next deck is another deck that's been really fun to play. Super Baby 1 with Bergamo Giant Force Unison to be able to trigger your Prideful Transformation early and the synergy that it has. So number 1, it's going to be a relevant attacker very quickly because of the permanent. It gets plus 3,000 for each marker on it. And then when your opponent attacks this card, add a marker to this card, so you're going to need markers quickly. And then you have the -2, play up to 1 skills battle card or Universe 9 card that costs 2 or less from your deck in rest mode. Then shuffle your deck. So you have the ability to just go, all right, I have a Bergamo, I'll swing with my Bergamo. Then once you stack up counters on it, you can just go -2. I can play one of these skillless cards from my deck. And then it's like from there, okay, cool. I have another attacker that I just generated off this Bergamo Unison. My Bergamo Unison is still left over, and then I still have multiple ways to protect it. Because that's one thing, again, blocker keywords come in big in this deck because your leader skills Awaken side, you can play a Brainwash card, so you can play a Bola, right, which has blocker. And then from there, it's like your opponent swings at your Unison, right? The auto triggers, so you'll gain a marker. Then you activate blocker, so you're going to gain that marker, activate blocker. Then you don't end up losing a marker. So that's how you accrue markers so quickly with Bergamo, is by really leaning into using blocker as a keyword. Then of course, Prideful Transformation works the same way. You counter the threat that's being played. It comes into play in rest mode, and then from there, you have a blocker. So again, they swing your Bergamo. You can activate this as a blocker, and then that way you still mitigate your Unison from ever losing counters. And then, of course, you're playing your 4 Dr. Mew, your 4 Baby Evil Origins. This is a great way to not only get through your deck, filter your deck, but, of course, use it for combo fodder for your arrival. 4 Bulma Brainwashed, 4 Bola Brainwashed, 4 Son Gohan Brainwashed. That's all the Brainwash we're playing. Our super combos, we're doing a 2-2 split of Counterblast and Whis because I want to have some draw power in the super combos just to be able to find anything. And of course, during your turn, if your opponent has 5 or more cards in rest mode, choose it for one of your battle cards and it costs 5 or less and KO it. That is pretty relevant. So I like having access to that ability. And then, of course, we Celestial Moderator as another way to enable our arrival into play. We're playing 2 copies of the Baby Janemba, Hatred and Evil Personified. This comes into play whenever you play a red, yellow, multicolored baby card. You play this card from your hand, then look at the top 7, add up to 2 cards of the offering skills and one to your hand, then shuffle your deck. If you did add 2 cards, choose 1 card in your hand and discard it. So you can always just get one off of this, which is fine. You don't have to discard anything. And then again, another relevant body. From there, of course, we have our 4 Super Baby 1. We're playing 4 Super Baby 2 Malicious Majesty. This card has always been one of my favorite cards ever. Deflect, offering, activate battle, choose 3 cards in your hand, place them in your drop area, then choose 1 card in your life out of your hand. Choose your opponent's leader card and all their battle cards to get minus 20,000 power and have their non-keyword skills negated for the duration of the turn. Very powerful effect. And then, of course, that triggers your leader having triple attack. So your board just goes really wide, really fast, which is what you want. Getting your free Super Baby 1 the Conqueror, getting that Vegeta Prideful transformation for free, being able to play your Brainwash cards for free with your leader skill. SS4 Bardock fighting against Fate is a great way to go even further on that turn where you're trying to kill your opponent, which is usually turn 3 on the play. Being able to have your Dr. Mew, your baby out, being able to have a Son Gohan Brainwash, a Unison, a Prideful Transformation, a Super Baby 1 the Conqueror, your Malicious Majesty, and then all of a sudden you play a Fighting Against Fate, and it's like your opponent's a negative 5,000 leader, and you're swinging with a 25k body with dual attack. Absolutely absurd. And then a secret rare again is Sin Shenron Negative Energy Incarnate. Just due to all the 1-drops, it's very easy to enable in this deck. Since you're drawing 3, discarding 2, usually it's going to be some combination of 1-drops to get out of your hand so you can fuel your Negative Energy Incarnate. And then also with you comboing your Dr. Mew and your baby. Again, like I said, fueling your Sin Shenron. And then again, so you have great defense, great offense if you want to be aggressive with it. Again, great pickup for the stack. And then the only defense we're playing is Skill of a Sage. When you play this card, if it's your opponent's turn, you can place the card in the center's drop area. If you do, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost greater than their energy, ignoring barrier and switch to rest mode, and they can't be switched to active mode until the start of your next turn. That's the only way of really defending ourselves. Otherwise, you could also play 2 Time Magic if you wanted to have a Sparking Negate, but this has been the defense I've been playing so far. It's been working out well for me. And then otherwise, Sin Shenron has been the card that's kind of protecting you, along with the blockers of Prideful Transformation and Bola. So overall, deck's been very strong, taking games off of some really competitive decks. So again, just a deck I've really been enjoying playing. And of course, shout out to Jose Mercado. He's a baby boy. We love baby. I'm so glad that I get to play this deck. And this is the other deck I'll be playing from Draft Box 6, because the only card that it requires really is just Bergamo Unison, which is it's cheap. It's like $3. If you don't have it, buy it. The last deck is going to be the most competitive deck out of it. Everyone's already talking about it. But Red Broly from Series 11 with Piccolo Jr. Giant Force Unison. I think this is an astronomically huge pickup for the deck. Kale Unison is good, don't get me wrong, but having a Unison that when you play it, it has a +1 ability to choose up to run opponent's battle cards, gets minus 5,000 power for the turn. It allows you to answer anything that's pesky, like Dark Power, Black Mass, Saiyan, or any blocker that's hanging around. Being able to just have this +1 just gets you so much value. But ultimately, you still have the auto when your opponent adds a card from their life to their hand or drop area, add a marker to this card. So this kind of replaces Kale's effect of when you activate swap, add a marker. Because instead, you're doing something that you're going to trigger no matter what, and it has the upside of being impossible to trigger on the opponent's turn if they take a life for any reason. So I really like that ability. And then the -6 is what you're really here for. If your leader card is red, choose up to 2 mono red battle cards with different card names, energy cost 3 or less, and 19,000 power or less in your deck or hand. Play them, and then shuffle your deck. And so we have a couple options for you. Option number 1, you're always going to get Pan and a combination of 1 other card, but you do have a lot of access to other cards just in case. So Fearless Pan is always the first one that you're going to want to get. Being able to pump your whole entire board plus your leader plus 5k and double strike is pretty wild. Makes your leader a 25k double strike critical. Makes your 5-drop Broly 35k double strike critical. You can see how that can get pretty out of control. The next cards you can get, some other one-ofs, Oblivious Rampage Son Goku. This is a Richard Zapp special. This card is really sick because it's going to come down with your Fearless Pan. It's going to be a 20k double strike critical. It's going to have Activate Main, Burst 3, and then choose one of your red battle cards, KO it, switch this card to active mode. So when you do that, you can actually KO one of your Brawlies that you already swung with. That then triggers your leader ability where it says when one of your red Brawlies is KO'd, choose one red Broly card when the energy cost is 4 less in your hand and play it. So you'll discard it. So you'll KO a Broly, discard a card, play another Broly, which would probably be a 4-drop, make your opponent warp another card, and you get another attacker, and you get another swing with your 20k crit double striker. Insane. Am I right? And then, of course, the other bullet that we're playing is Impeccable Super Saiyan Kaba. Again, same thing. You're going to play it with your Fearless Pan. It's going to be a 25k double striker that your opponent cannot activate counter against. They can't negate the attack. Like, that's so strong. So when you're trying to close out the game, being able to go Fearless Pan into Impeccable Super Saiyan combo when you're worried about that extra dimension magic or, anything like, you're just going to be able to blow the opponent out with this card. So again, having access to that, super strong. Of course, in our list, you were also adding King Piccolo, the new ruler. This card is just going to end up being a staple now in red. It's just if your red unison card in play has 3 or more markers on it, play this card from your hand. Can't play copies of this card for the turn, and then auto at the end of the turn warp this card. It's going to be a 20k double striker with that, your opponent can't activate blocker against. So again, another great way to close out the game, right? Or another great way to put pressure on the opponent. And then we're still going to play Bardock the Resolute because again, it's so easy to trigger in this deck, and then also has the keyword in the auto where it says when your opponent activates counter skill, switch this card to active mode. So again, so many ways to the pressure of the opponent. We're still all in on Man on a Mission being, our overwhelm card. You could also do the SS4 Bardock promo as well, but again, this deck very similar to the deck that I was playing originally, but I really just cut the defense because you don't need it anymore. Because your deck is so oppressive offensively, you're really just going to rely on Ba for defense. You're just going to try and put the pedal to the metal and get the opponent dead as quickly as possible. And Piccolo Jr., Giant Force Unison, make sure that that happens. So anyways, these are 5 decks. 5 decks that got a booster from Draft Box 6. 5 decks that, show you things that you can do you may have not thought of before. And honestly, being able to take a look at some leaders from the past that, haven't gotten any love and kind of being able to use them with these new archetypes. It's like I said, the best part about Dragon Ball Super Card Game is being able to do all these things with these new cards. So hope you enjoyed this video. Glad to be back, making some content. I can't promise it's going to be regular just because of life and work and all those things. But thank you so much for all your support. The Discord is amazing. So if you haven't had a chance to check out the 3xtrudioproductions.com to take a look at the Discord and get on it, please do so. But anyways, thank you so much for everything. #ScrubFam is best fam. Be safe. Okay, thanks. Bye.